Hi, and welcome to this masterpiece of a video. Today we're going to be going through the whole story of Samuel Kalu, also known as King Zaza, over in Nigeria. The man has been playing in many countries for many teams and has scored many beautiful goals. And in this one whole video we're going to be going through all of that up to him now. So, let's start off. Samuel Kalu was born on August 26, 1997 in a village called Abia in the Abia state of southeast Nigeria. Samuel Kalu would start his journey into football by joining the ABS Academy, a small little academy over in Jos, Nigeria. The GBS Academy actually had many connections to other European teams, as they were official partners in developing newer Nigerian players. One of these partners in Europe was AS Trentin in the Slovakian league. They would find Samuel Kalu and decide to sign him in 2015, where he would officially join as a player in 2016 of January. He made his professional debut for Trentin against Slavia Bratislava on the 27th of February 2016, which ended as a 2-0 loss, but Kalu nonetheless would start to impress in this Slovakian side. Kalu started to get a run of games, which would end with Kalu scoring his first ever goal as a professional player versus Zemplin on the 3rd of March in a 3-1 win, which would see Trentin go fighting for the title. While the club was continuing to fight for the title, Kalu also continued impressing with his best goal versus Rosenbrock in the Slovakian Cup semi-final. The game would end 5-1 as Trentin progressed to the cup final for the second year in a row. This was a good first season for Kalu, and to cap it off was going to the Anton Mostovski Stadium preparing for the Slovakian Cup final, a potential trophy for Samuel Kalu in his first ever season as a footballer. In the cup final, Samuel Kalu was subbed on in the 66th minute, getting some good game time, and a game overall dominated by Trentin saw them win 3-1 against Slavia Bratislava, and the team celebrated in front of 10,000 fans as they lifted the trophy for the second time in a row. After the cup final, Trentin also went on to win the league as well, getting first place with 81 points, that being 12 points more than second place Slavia Bratislava. Despite only joining in 2016, Kalu still managed to play at least 17 games for the club, scoring 4 and getting 2 assists. Overall, for an 18-year-old, pretty good start for the guy. And not just that, he also managed to pick up the Best Talent Award in the Slovakian League, voted by journalists over Slovakia. Pretty impressive. Because Trentin won the league last year, they would start the 16-17 season in the Champions League qualification stages, where they would face up against Olympia in the Slovenian league. Here they would beat them in the first leg 4-3, with Kalu getting a goal and an assist for Trentin's third goal. Pretty good start for him. Trentin managed to qualify for the third round of the Champions League qualifiers, as the second leg ended in a 3-2 loss, but Trentin went through on away goals, that game being 6-6 on aggregate. Unfortunately, in the third round of the Champions League qualification, they would go up against Polish side Legia Warsaw, where they lost 1-0 in the first leg, and in the second leg they just couldn't manage to find the net, as it drew 0-0 and they would be knocked out of the Champions League. But thankfully they would drop into the Europa League qualifiers. Despite now being in the Europa League qualifiers, they still could not qualify for Europe, as it would go up against Rapid Vienna, one of the best teams in Austria. They got smashed 4-0 at home in the first leg, then managing to score 2 in the second leg, but wasn't enough as Rapid Vienna won 4-2 overall on aggregate. Now being out of Europe officially, the season officially started as well. Trentin weren't as dominating as they usually were, but Kalu was still on form, and he would score his last goal here against Seneca in the end of 2016. Kalu would leave in January of 2017 as interest for the winger was all over, and Trentin would end 4th with 47 points, a huge drop off from last season. Fun fact, after Kalu left, Trentin haven't won a cup or a league afterwards, with their last trophy wins coming in the 15-16 season. Kalu impressed Ghent scouts over in Slovakia and ended up signing for Ghent in January of 2017 for only €1 million. He would link up with fellow Nigerian Matt Simon, and he was acting as a future star but would quickly get more game time thanks to injuries from other players and overall impressing the Ghent manager. Kalu started his first game for Ghent after just a few days for signing for them, and it was a 1-0 win against Charleroi where he managed to net an assist for the winning goal. 6 games later into the Belgian season, Kalu managed to score his first goal for Ghent versus Royal Excel Mouscron in a 3-1 win on the 26th of February 2017. After Kalu with Trentin failed to qualify for Europe, moving to Ghent seemed like a smart move, as the club already qualified for Europa League and were already in the knockout stages. Only one problem was that the club would play Tottenham in the round of 32. The game overall was a stalemate, but in the 58th minute, thanks to poor defending, Ghent managed to score a goal. Later, Kalu would come on and created good chances, hoping to get a second, but Ghent couldn't finish, and the first leg ended 1-0. In the second leg, Tottenham started off better, with Eriksson making it 1-0, and then Ghent would equalise, then taking the lead on aggregate. But just before the second half, Dele Alli would be sent off, taking Spurs to 10 men and 1-1 at half-time. Surprisingly, Spurs started the strongest in the second half, despite being a man down, and Wanyama scored a great strike outside the box to make it 2-1 and 2-2 on aggregate. But in classic Tottenham fashion, Ghent would get a lucky chance in the 88th minute and scoring to make it 2-2 and 3-2 on aggregate, meaning they would go through to the last 16 in front of 80,000 fans. Ghent in the last 16 of the Europa League would face against rivals Genk. Kalu would score his first ever goal in Europe as Ghent took the lead in the first leg, but unfortunately it all fell apart as rivals Genk managed to win 5-2 in the first leg. And then afterwards, in the second leg, Ghent couldn't bring it back despite Kalu assisting a goal in a 1-1 draw which ended 6-3 to Genk on aggregate. Ghent were officially knocked out of the Europa League in the last 16. At the end of the season, Ghent managed to clinch top 6 with 2 more points than Mechelin. Later in the Championship playoffs after the league, Ghent managed to secure Europa qualification again by reaching 3rd. The 16 season was pretty good for Kalu. It definitely helped that he managed to switch from Trentin to Ghent halfway through the season, with his stats at Trentin being 27 games, 3 goals and 6 assists. When moving at Ghent in 2017, he played 19 but had more goals and more assists, that being 4 goals and 8 assists. If you combine the stats of Kalu when he was at Trentin and Ghent, this would be his best season stats-wise. In Kalu's first full season with Ghent, the team struggled, which got manager Hein Schwach sacked, and the team would land in 14th, being 1 point away from relegation, and now needed a rebuild to start up their season again. Under new manager Wies van der Haag, Kalu thrived, now playing in a more central attacking role. Kalu shows his best ever performance in a must-win game for Ghent, scoring 2 against Waasland. Ghent fans showed their love for Kalu after his 2-goal star performance, chanting his name in the stands. Quality. After many Nigerian fans wanting Kalu in the national team, their wish was granted as manager Gernot Rohr got Kalu called up for the first time to the Nigerian team for the 2019 AFCON qualifiers, where he played 6 games. In this international break, Kalu would also score his first goal for Nigeria versus Libya. It seemed to be the perfect start for 2018 for Kalu. Kalu returned to Ghent and continued his electric scoring form by scoring a cracker against Waregem. And in the end, this season ended up being his best goal-scoring season yet, with 6 goals. At the end of this season, Ghent managed to get Europa League qualification once again, pipping their rivals Genk for 4th place. League-wise, the 17-18 season seemed to be amazing for Samuel Kalu, as he managed to play 36 games, scoring 6 and assisting 8. You're probably wondering why I didn't mention Ghent's European campaign. That's because they got absolutely smashed and knocked out in the first round. So, Kalu signed for Bordeaux in 2018 as an impressive winger for €8.5 million from Ghent. Kalu was the most expensive player bought by Bordeaux that season, and it seemed that he would be one of the players to take Bordeaux into this new era of the club, as they were recently bought by American owners. First game at Bordeaux was against his former club Ghent in the final round of qualifying for the Europa League. Kalu was subbed on in the 50th minute as Bordeaux were winning 1-0. As soon as he came on, Kalu made an impact by making a dribble into the box, giving Bordeaux a penalty that was later scored and sent Ghent out of the Europa League, while his new team Bordeaux qualified, as Bordeaux won 2-0 overall. On the 16th of September, Kalu scored his first goal for Bordeaux versus Nimes to make it 3-2 to Bordeaux in the 57th minute, but Nimes got the 3-3 draw with a goal for them in the 78th minute, but a good performance for Kalu nonetheless. Kalu hit the European jackpot again as Bordeaux were in the Europa League, starting off in the group stages. But unfortunately, Bordeaux's poor start in the Europa League saw them getting knocked out, being in third with only 7 points and couldn't progress. But Kalu got some good minutes in this group stages with 5 appearances. Kalu was always known for his good dribbling, but in Ligue 1 it exploded. Kalu was always known for his good dribbling, but in Ligue 1 it exploded, and his dribbling stats went up higher than it ever did at Ghent or Trentin, and managed to hit 3.2 per 90. Also at this time, Bordeaux were having a good run in France's League Cup, and in the quarter-finals, Kalu scored the only goal in a 1-0 win versus Le Havre. But the cup dream wouldn't be finalised as they got knocked out later in the semi-finals against Strasbourg. The 18-19 season ended with Bordeaux getting 14th, pretty decent but mid-table. Overall, fans wished they could do more. Specifically for Kalu, this was probably his most appearances in one season. He got 32 appearances, scoring 4 and getting 4 assists. A pretty decent start for the winger. It was also around this time that Samuel Kalu's mother was kidnapped, sometime in 2019. The incident was so terrible and frightening for Samuel Kalu that he had to relocate his family to Lagos, away from the southeast, as kidnapping became common around there. Kalu's mother was eventually released on the 5th of March 2019, having slept in the kidnapper's den for 6 days. As of now, Samuel Kalu's family all over in Nigeria are completely fine. Kalu got a huge chance in the summer after a good season with Bordeaux. He got the chance to join Nigeria in the AFCON 2019 squad. Kalu's first AFCON game was against Madagascar in the third group game, which was a 2-0 loss for the Nigerians, but they won their first 2 games in the group stage, meaning they already qualified for the knockout stages. Kalu passed out shockingly for a second whilst participating in a team training session during the AFCON 2019 held in Egypt. Though rumours had it he suffered a heart attack, this was later debunked as he collapsed as a result of severe dehydration. He was later released from the hospital to link up back with the rest of the squad in Alexandria. How did the rest of AFCON 2019 go for Nigeria? Well, they managed to beat Cameroon in the last 16 3-2. Then in the quarter-finals, they managed to beat South Africa 2-1. And then in the semi-finals, their run came to an end as Nigeria beat them 2-1. Samuel Kalu would get some game time, at least 5 to 10 minutes, in all 3 of these knockout games. Kalu would struggle going into the new season with Bordeaux, thanks to AFCON being played in the summer and all the rumours out there. And Kalu's only goal of the season for Bordeaux was against Amiens in a 3-1 win here. While Kalu's goal-scoring form seemed to have dried up this season, later in the season he kept getting picked into the starting 11, becoming one of Bordeaux's regular starters this season. This was because of his exceptional dribbling, which was at its best ever, being the 6th best in the league statistically and only 0.1 dribbles behind Kylian Mbappe per 90. After AFCON 2019, Kalu played his last minutes for his country outside a few friendlies in 2020, but he still scored his second ever Nigerian goal to win against Benin 2-1 with Kalu's only 5 games in the 2021 AFCON qualifiers here. A small improvement than last season, Bordeaux finished 12th this time, but still from fans it was called a disappointment as they didn't qualify for Europe again. For Kalu as well, this season wasn't great as he played nearly 22 games but only netted once and getting 2 assists, one in the cup and one in the league. At the start of the new season, Paulo Sousa was sacked on the 10th of August and replaced by Jean-Louis Gasset, whose style of play suited Kalu better, and it would show as his goal-scoring form would come back briefly. 19th of September saw Kalu scoring his first goal this season in a 2-1 loss against Lens, which kick-started his goal-scoring form again, where he'd score next week in a 3-0 win against Dijon. This season seemed a little bit different for Bordeaux fans, as in the new year it saw their club go into the race for Europe after a 4-game unbeaten run. They were in 7th and had to beat 3rd place Lyon to prove that they were serious contenders for Europe. In the 55th minute, Bordeaux dominated the game but trailed 1-0, but thanks to a super strike from informed Kalu, the game went to 1-1 and Bordeaux piled on the pressure and went so close to scoring a second. But in the 90th minute, Lyon took a surprise counter-attack against the now tied Bordeaux side and scored the winner. And that 2-1 loss seemed to make sure that Bordeaux would not be in the race for Europe despite their dominant performance. As the goal scoring was coming back, so did the dribbling, and despite a small drop-off, Kalu was still one of the best dribblers in this league, showing to have better dribbling stats than players like Renato Sanchez and Di Maria per 90. While the football was still going on April 23rd of 2021, Bordeaux recorded a huge loss financially due to COVID-19 and also loss of income when MediaPro TV rights holder went bankrupt and missed payments last year. And when American owners King Street stated that they would no longer financially support the club financially was put into administration with Gerard Lopez now the new owner. With the club now in administration and the race for Europe was a bit of a drop-off, Bordeaux finished the season in 12th. Still, the exact same as they did last year, but there was a different feel around the club this time. Under new owner and now in administration, Bordeaux hired manager Vladimir Petkovic, who wasn't a popular choice for manager to many, and Kalu didn't suit well under Petkovic winning games. At the start of the season, on 15th of August 2021, Samuel Kalu collapsed in the game against Marseille. He was able to get up and walk off the pitch with teammates' help, while holding an ice pack against his head. 8 minutes later, he was subbed off. Petkovic and Kalu struggled severely in this Bordeaux team, and after 6 games were near the relegation zone, and they needed a huge result in their next game. In this big game against Montpellier, Bordeaux were 2-1 up in the second half, until Montpellier got a good strike to make it 2-2, and then they scored another to make it 3-2. But thankfully, with 5 minutes to go, Samuel Kalu came on, did a little bit of skill as he usually does, and scored a 3-3 late minute equaliser to give Bordeaux the point and hopefully a chance of staying up this season. Also, this would be Kalu's final goal for Bordeaux. As Bordeaux still had financial issues, in January owner Gerard Lopez decided to sell some of the club's top paid players and others. In this pool of players to be sold was Samuel Kalu. When Kalu left the club, Bordeaux were in 19th with only 17 points after 21 games. After this, manager Vladimir Petkovic would be sacked, but this wouldn't help the club as they dropped bottom, 20th, being relegated to Ligue 2. Kalu's final season with Bordeaux only had him play 11 games with only 1 goal and 1 assist. Pretty depressing. Kalu signed officially on the 26th of January 2022 for £3 million going to Premier League club Watford. After a few weeks of negotiations, Samuel Kalu was excited to play in the Premier League for the first time, as any player would in this opportunity. When Kalu arrived, Watford were bottom of the table and just lost to 3-0 to Norwich, and already Claudio Ranieri was sacked even before having a training session with Samuel Kalu. Kalu warmed to Watford after getting to know new boss Roy Hodgson, and soon Kalu became a substitute favourite with the manager. Kalu's first appearance was a 3-2 loss against Arsenal, where he came off the bench and did well against them, but overall he struggled with the intensity of the league, and his only other 3 appearances this season was a 4-0 loss to Wolves, 0-0 against Everton, and then a 5-1 loss to Leicester. In the end, Watford were relegated, only picking up 8 points since Kalu's arrival in January, and this saw the first time in Kalu's career where he was in the second division of a top-flight league. After only having 4 appearances last season for Watford, the team started to look more positive with the incompetent Roy Hodgson leaving and a young Rob Edwards coming in, but Kalu got injured while the team was training away in Austria, and this would be a common theme with Kalu at Watford, only because of English football's well-known hardcore style of football, which didn't suit Kalu. And also, Watford's medical team is pretty useless, just like their owner. It seemed that Kalu would already leave the club, as Edwards wasn't a fan. But luckily, Edwards was later sacked, and Slaven Bilic came in and took a liking to the Nigerian, and once back from injury, gave him many chances, even giving him a start for the first time this season in a 0-0 draw versus Bristol City. Kalu, while still struggling to adapt to the Championship in the fast-paced, intense league, he grew better with every performance and showed his passion and want to play. This season, Kalu got on 9 appearances, and his best performance was in a 2-0 win against Reading on the 9th of November 2022. Kalu would go on again to get, unfortunately, another injury, this time against Norwich in the new year, and this would be his worst one yet, where he missed out most of the rest of the season. And not just that, Slaven Bilic, the man who put his trust in Kalu at Watford, was sacked and replaced with Chris Wilder, who has yet to give Kalu a chance at the team. It seems Kalu won't play again till the end of the season, but who knows? And more importantly, will Kalu even stay at Watford? Who knows? Only time can tell. Thanks for watching me drone on about Samuel Kalu. I'm sure it was incredibly boring for you, but if you managed to stick with me here, good job on you. And while you're at it, how about you praise Samuel Kalu on Instagram or Twitter, or just send him any praise. He deserves it. He is the GOAT, after all.